Recording.
All right.
All right. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Brian Huberty. I'm the current president of the Minnesota Forestry Association. Dave O'Rourke is the immediate past president of the Minnesota Forestry Association. He's going to help out with the questions and answers here at the end. Today, we'll be starting out with Nathan Peterson. Nathan's with the USDA Farm Service Agency. He has, 2 or 3 counties up there that he gets to run around to, and he will just talk briefly, and I am going to emphasize this briefly, about the Emergency Forest Restoration Program, or EFRP, because it still hasn't been enacted yet. They don't have all the bells and whistles and details figured out, but he might be able to give a little bit of information so people can get prepped up for the February 2nd opening date. And then we'll dive a little bit deeper into the Firewise burning with Ben Lang with the Minnesota DNR. And then after Ben's done, we'll do some Q&A questions, and we'll host this conference call, this webinar, a month later on, I forget what it is, February 9th or 8th or whatever it is, same time, second week in Monday on 4 p.m. Wow. And then by then, Nathan will probably have more experience as well as questions and answers on the whole program and how it works. So with that, Nathan, I'm going to pass it on to you. And I'm going to make you a co-host so you can present anything if you want. It's up to you, or you can just talk. It's either way.
I'm going to try and share an outline, and I apologize that the Zoom, we usually use Teams. So if I get the wrong screen here, I apologize, but I think we're getting it figured out. So.
Yep, here it comes. Very good.
All right. So
give it a second here. It should pop up. There it is.
There you go.
Again, this is just a brief outline. Thank you, Brian, and you guys for hosting this. Again, my name's Nathan Peterson with the Farm Service Agency, and one of the programs that we are going to have available, or do have available, starting February 2nd is actually the sign-up start date for us for our Emergency Forest Restoration Program. So again, this is just kind of a real broad overview and a really rough outline. So what is the program? It's the Emergency Forest Restoration Program, and it is a reimbursement program limited to 75% of the actual costs or allowable costs per component. And so we're likely going to be limiting to 75% of the allowable cost. So what does this mean? It's a reimbursement program. Producers are going to have to, or again, I'm used to more farm ag, let's say producers, but our private landowners or private forest owners are going to have to basically expense or have expenses up front, and it's going to be a reimburse, hopefully up to about 75%, but in some cases we won't quite get there. We do have maximum allowable expenses, and we will butt up against those, I'm sure, on some of these. So it is for non-industrial private forest lands. We call that NIPF. That means rural forest lands with existing tree cover, or which were suitable for growing trees, that are owned by private non-industrial forest landowners or long-term leasees. So if you do have a long-term lease on the property, has to be greater than 10 years, or you do own the property, and you're having expenses to basically remove down trees, get this stuff cleaned up from that blowdown, it's a program that may fit for you. The criteria is kind of wide open as far as minimum and maximum acreages. We're going to rely heavily on that non-industrial private forest land. That is going to be the main definition that we are going to have to meet. Has to be rural. We're not talking about urban lots or anything like that. Has to be forest land. But it can be as small as 1 acre. I think it would be probably pretty rare that we would ever go down that small, but there's no cap on it either. I mean, we can be talking 40, 50, 60 acres. So where does this fit? This is just one example. I own 80 acres of woods. It blew down. I'm having to get, say, a logger, heavy equipment in to get those damaged trees, those down trees cleaned up. I have expense to that because there's no salvage value to that timber anymore. I am being charged. I'm having to pay for that out of pocket. That's where this program is hopefully going to help reimburse these private landowners to clean this stuff up. So kind of how do you get started? Like I said, the sign up, we're still held up a little bit. Sign up doesn't begin until February 2nd, but there are some stuff that you guys can do between now and February 2nd to kind of get you ready to go come February 2nd. First and foremost is once sign up does go live, we are going to need, it's called a FSA 20 or an AD 2047 form. You can find this online. It's actually FSA's authorization to put you into the system. So we're anticipating a lot of the people that apply for this EFRP program are people that we haven't seen before. They're going to be new customers to us. We have to get you into our national database. This is the form that we collect that information to get you into our system. Pretty standard. You'll be a new customer. Most of you will need your customer, your name, your full name and address. We'll need a good number to reach you at, whether that's a landline or you want to provide your cell phone. Any number that you want to give there, an email address, if that would be helpful. We will need your full social security number. We need to know whether you're a U.S. citizen, resident alien, or not a U.S. citizen. We'll need to know that. There is some voluntary information on this that you can supply as far as race, ethnicity, and then just FSA customer. If you are multi-county, meaning that you would be in more than one county, and then just sign and date. So that's kind of the first step. First time we see you, first time you contact us, that's going to be the very first step to get you into our system. The second step really does involve, we need to know what land we're talking about, and typically we need a copy of your deed. We do not talk in parcels, that's county specific, so we don't need parcel numbers, or it really doesn't do us much good to help streamline this. We really are asking for a copy of your deed. It gives us your section, your township, your range, the amount of acres that you own to ensure that we have the right people attached to the right property. And then realistically, we would like just ideally you would email this stuff to us so we can enter you into the system. We have to build that farm into our system. We have to what we call tract it. So we have to, this is your 80 acres. This is my 20 acres. We need to get that drawn. That's the very first building blocks before we can even start an application. So that's why if we could get that stuff in email, it gives us a leg up and makes, anytime that we do anything in person with you a little bit faster and maybe a little bit more beneficial. And if you are emailing us, just maybe like a 3-sentence or less describing what damage did you have? What type of tree cover do you have? And it's not that we're going to hold you to any of this. It's just a little bit of information to give us an idea of what we're dealing with. The 3 things that are on the application that we probably do need to know eventually is it a hardwood stand? Are we talking mixed stand? Are we talking softwoods? Like, is it a pine plantation? It's okay if you don't know. Give us just a little description. I have 20 acres. It's a mixed stand of a whole bunch of stuff. It's completely blowing down, and maybe kind of what your goals are. And again, we can get more into that once we start the application. It just helps us get a little bit of an idea of what we're dealing with, what route we need to go. But those are kind of the 3 pieces that we would like up front. 2047, let's get you in our system. First and foremost, we have to attribute you to certain land. So we need that deed. We need to get you what we call a farm and tract. County talks in parcels, the Farm Service Agency talks in farm and tract. Kind of the same thing. It's just a unique identifier for your land, your information. Once we get that, then we can start going into the application process, teasing apart, your stand. What did you have out there? Is it a mixed? Is it hardwoods? Is it a softwood? What are your priorities? We do want to hear from you of, is your priority just to clean up the down trees? Is it to clean up down trees and replant? Is it other goals? Like, what are your goals for this program? Talked about at the beginning that it's non-industrial private forest land, meaning it had to be in tree cover, forest ground. It has to be going back to forest ground. We can't be clearing this to make pasture or to make housing developments or any of that stuff. It's forest land going back to forest land. So that is extremely important. That has to be the ultimate goal. How we get there is going to be actually a collaboration really between that private landowner and the foresters that you work with. FSA is going to do the application. We're going to get you entered into the system. We're going to hear what you kind of want as goals and priorities. We're then going to take that, and if you are approved, if you meet the definition of a non-industrial private forest land and you meet the owner definition, that's where we would pass it off to our foresters, and they would go, again, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but then they would meet with the private landowner, you guys, the owners, and then come up with, okay, yes, it is a mixed stand. And yes, we do need, maybe not only do we need clearing, but through conversations, we decide that we also want planting. Well, that's stuff that can be teased apart when we do what we typically refer to as the conservation plan. When the forester and you guys as private landowners, private citizens decide what's best for your property. And that will be a little bit of probably a back and forth, a give and take on that. And then once we get to that point, it's decided, the foresters worked with you. They give it back to us and say, this is what needs to be done to the property. We would go ahead and approve you for those practices. Say it is just land clearing. You would have 2 years to implement it. Extremely, extremely important. You have to save your receipts, save your expenses. You have to prove that you had out-of-pocket expenses. It's a reimbursement program. That's the point, that once that is completed, you come back to FSA with those receipts, those expenses, and then be reimbursed for that work. And again, the idea is 75%, but we do have allowable expenses not to exceed rate, so we won't always quite get to that 75% rate. So we do have some email addresses that we would like stuff, depending on which county you're in, to be sent to. Brian, I could get that to you. I don't know if there's a way that you could post that on your guys' website. We'll have that information available too, but I can get you those email addresses after this and get you to post that. But for Hubbard, Cass, Itasca counties, we do ask that you would send that to the Park Rapids FSA user group. I cover Beltrami, Clearwater, and actually East Polk. For the Beltrami Clearwater damage, we would ask you to send that to our Bagley user group. And then we have Monoman too. There was some damage in Monoman. So if you're physically located, and we would go by physical location of the property, not necessarily where you as the applicant live. So probably a perfect example of, I live in southern Beltrami County, but the property that I am wanting reimbursement on or wanting help under our emergency forest restoration program is located in Hubbard. You could go either place, but eventually that application probably will be referred to Park Rapids, Hubbard County. But again, we work very, very closely with our other county offices. If you get in contact with one FSA office, they're going to steer you where you need to go. Don't feel bad if you contact the wrong one. We work very closely with each other. So Kayla Madsen is the county executive director that handles Aiken, Itasca, Cass counties. I've been in contact with her multiple times already today, just asking her stuff about today's call. So that's honestly, like I said, I didn't have a whole lot for you guys today other than to introduce the program, let you know FSA is going to have some disaster assistance for private landowners. The big thing that I see is probably the land clearing. Obviously, we had extensive damage due to that blowdown, and providing hopefully some cost share to get some of that stuff cleaned up, some of the areas that is costing our private landowners money to get those trees removed and get it back into shape to be forest once again. So
Yeah, sounds good, Nathan. One person had sent through the chat or the Q&A, I should say, just a quick question about if you're an LCC, are you still eligible? And I'm pretty sure yes, they are. If you want to confirm that, yeah,
they can be. Yep, entities absolutely can meet the definition. So, yep, we would tease that apart at the time of application, but it doesn't preclude you. I know a lot of people have land in LLCs or Incs or that sort of stuff. As long as you are basically a private, don't engage in timber sales and mills and things like that. Yes, you absolutely are. So,
okay. And Dave Rourke, you have another question?
Thanks, Brian. Nathan, relative to the storm, there were multiple storms this summer. Obviously, the big one there that really clobbered Bemidji area there. Is the funds available for other storms that happened this summer, or even a storm maybe that happened previous summer?
Right now, it would have to be affected by the I'm honestly forgetting the date. I think it was the June 21st, 2025 blowdown. So, if that area was affected by another storm and this one created additional damage, yes, all of that would be considered, but it would have to be within the path and been affected by this Bemidji blowdown event on June 21st.
All right, thank you. And then secondly, could you speak just a bit more about the forester that we'll be working with? I'm not sure people were picking up necessarily. Are you or who is going to identify the forester that will work with the landowner? And will that be one forester in each one of those 3 county categories?
I don't know that I have that information. So let me try to tease it apart a little bit in that when people apply, they're going to come to the FSA office. Again, I know I'm repeating myself, but the more times we hear it, the better it sinks in. We're going to collect that 80, 20, 47, get you into our system, get the deed. We're going to draw your farm, get you a farm and track number. John, and I'm forgetting his last name with the Minnesota, John Carlson with the Minnesota DNR Forestry is our point of contact. And what we're doing is we're taking that application and we are basically uploading it online. And this is where FSA, and I need to tease this apart with John just a little bit more. I think he has multiple foresters that he is going to assign those projects to. I'm not sure. I thought maybe there was 3, but I don't think he's given me the names of them yet. But he would help sort those out and make sure that each forester basically gets a certain amount or keeps it so they can keep up with the workload. So yes, FSA takes the application. We are going to hand that off to Minnesota DNR. They will coordinate the efforts on making sure that technical assistance, the forester technical person does reach out and discusses the needs and I would say in almost most cases, an on-site visit will be done. Take a look at that property and assess what needs to be done specifically for that area and with the producer, the landowner's goals in mind.
Thank you, Nathan. That's very helpful. That really clears it up for me, and I think that helps most people understand the process. Thank you.
Appreciate the question.
Yeah, and Lori Barrow, who's the Bemidji PFM forester, just is online as well, and she can probably fill in a little bit here if Lori's still on.
Yeah, I am. Sorry, I was actually rushing back from a field visit where I've been working with some private landowners. So, yes, to just kind of tease out a little bit more about what Nathan said, myself, I will be one of the primary plan writers of the Bemidji area, and then we are working with two foresters in Cass Lake, or not in Cass Lake, I apologize, in Hubbard County, and then some other private lands foresters will be joining me to kind of share the workload because there's still plenty of work out there. So, that as of now, that's what it's looking like. Where I know we're trying to work with some private consulting foresters as well to get them on board.
Yeah, and just for the potential applicants, it's not as bad as getting your enhanced driver's license or your passport, but it is close.
We are government. We do like paperwork. I will give you that, but we try to make it fairly painless. So
Actually, I think you're better than the DMV, but that's another story. I just went through a driver's license renewal last week, and it was okay. It was not bad. Anyways, any other last quick questions before we move on to Firewise? It's really early. Nathan, if you can get that information like this sheet and your email contacts, email them over and we'll get them up on our website.
yeah, that'd be great. And like I said, honestly, I mean, people are welcome to come into our offices. We have one located in Bemidji, right across from Bob Lal Ford. Bagley is only open Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 8 to 4:30, right across from the electric company there, Polk Rice, or the electric deal there. Park Rapids is only open one day a week, so email does work really well. It helps us kind of keep everything in queue. Again, unfortunately, a lot of this is probably going to be or could be multiple trips because of the fact that we do have to get you into the system, records created, farm and track before we can even proceed with the application process. And that's just why we were, kind of brainstorming and thinking, boy, if people could email us that stuff, it would give us a leg up. It would get us rolling come February 2nd and help us keep the order and get you those things and make sure that when we do have you in person, that it's as beneficial, not waste your guys' time, right? I know time is precious. And so make sure that we keep those visits as efficient as possible. So
Yeah, there was a question that's disappeared. What was the end date again?
June
June?
5th.
Thank
I
you.
believe is the end date on that. So we're running 100 and I think it was 120-day sign up. That might not come out to quite 120 days. I know we adjusted a little bit there. So we had all this figured out, and then a government shutdown happens and stuff gets delayed and pushed back. And so yeah, it's been a scramble ever since.
Yeah. Thanks, Larry, for answering those questions. They really just popped up here.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh,
Some
that's
folks
okay.
might have had I'm sure other folks have similar questions.
Yep. All right. With that, you can keep asking questions if you like, and we'll try and answer them as best we can. We'll have a larger question and answer period after we're done with Ben on the Firewise presentation here shortly. So Ben, can you want to share your screen there again and get rolling on how to not be a firebug this spring and this winter?
Yeah.
Otherwise, Smokey the Bear is going to come and slap your wrist or something, right?
All right, I'm not seeing how to share my screen, but
on the very bottom, there's like a green box with an arrow that's pointing upwards.
oh, there we go.
There you go. And you're a co-host. And I'll let you. Yeah, here it comes. Very good.
Right.
It's working. Yep, you're good.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. For those that don't know me, my name's Ben Lang. I am the fire team leader for the Bemidji area. I have been for 7 years. So, going to talk a little bit about kind of what happened, kind of what took place over the last few months, and things you can do and prepare for next spring and summer. So, as you all know, the Blowdown event happened in June 2021. It was a very wide scale event that affected primarily the Bemidji area. I think most of you have probably seen this picture, but this kind of gives an overall extent of the severity of the blowdown. And you know, I was called in bright and early Saturday morning. I know Lori was there too to help. And, you know, as we were cutting out on the Sunday, day two, and helping people, we got a call for a fire response, a brush pile. Somebody had already started to try to burn their tops and leaves and everything. It ended up being a non-issue, but that really sparked an idea in my head that we need to address this as soon as possible. And I knew this was going to be a concern, but I thought I had a few weeks before it became an issue. So ended up getting on contact with our regional public information officer, Christy Coughlin, and we started to come up with a plan for outreach to the public. And that included, you know, radio public service announcements, interviews, talking with Lakeland Public Television, the newspaper, the Bemidji Pioneer, and just to have a constant reminder to folks that be careful when they're burning, because that's the number one cause of wildland fires in Minnesota is debris pile burns. It's roughly 45% of all wildfires in Minnesota. So wanted to get out there and be proactive, and the first message was not to burn. You know, a lot of the stuff was freshly green. It was down on the ground. You know, a lot of the emergency response people were busy, you know, taking care of business, and we didn't want to necessarily, you know, add one more layer of confusion to the whole mess. And so for the better part of the summer and early fall, the messaging was, you know, just don't burn your piles, you know, wait until things have dried out. Once we started kind of getting snow on the ground, we flipped that story over to, okay, it's now a little bit safer to burn. And so ever since, you know, early November, mid-November, when we got that first snowfall, you know, we've seen a lot of plumes in the air, kind of people cleaning up, you know, their backyards and their back 40s. And I think that's been a great thing. One of the side implications of that was Beltrami County dispatchers have been getting inundated with people calling in columns of smoke, you know, reporting fires, which is a good thing. But, you know, it was another kind of unforeseen hiccup in the process of, like, everybody's being proactive. So how do you tell people, you know, not to call in smoke? You don't want them to necessarily, you know, miss a house fire. So we did a little bit of public service announcements to kind of tell people, you know, make sure you know what you're calling in before you just randomly call in a column of smoke. And the other thing that we worked on with the Firewise committee was a pamphlet that we just sent out probably this week. There was some PFM information in there as well, but it kind of gave a little tutorial on how to burn piles. And so that was kind of our, like I said, our big thing for Firewise, trying to inform and teach people how to properly burn a pile. We didn't want to be, you know, just don't on everything. We wanted to be proactive, and here are some things that you can do when you're thinking about burning a pile. So you got to make sure that the site is clean. It helps with the fire spread potential, and also helps if you are going to replant that site to have a nice clean site. Things tend to, in the spring, if you have less debris on the ground, the soil heats up a little bit quicker, and things seem to sprout a little bit faster. If you do burn a pile in your backyard, they can be very intense. You know, we were burning piles and you couldn't get within 40, 50 feet of some of those piles. Now, these were bigger piles on state land. They were probably 40 by 40 foot in diameter, but you know, they put off a lot of heat. So trying to inform people to keep them, you know, at least 75 to 100 feet away from timber that didn't blow over and they wanted to keep, or buildings and houses and things like that. Probably the biggest thing that we wanted to get out to the public is that a lot of these piles will hold heat for weeks and up to months. We actually just talked to one of my other technicians, and he was dozing out some of the piles on state land. And we burned a pile a month and a half ago, and he found considerable heat still that had moved into the stumps and the roots and was actively burning as soon as he opened it back up. So, that was a month and a half of relatively cold, snowy weather, and it probably would have came back to life as soon as it got dry, windy, and sunny out. So probably the other thing that people don't really think about, but that's been on my mind for a little bit is, smoke dispersal. A lot of the piles that I've seen around Bemidji are in and around houses and other buildings. And so you want to make sure that you're aware of where that smoke is going to go. Make sure you're checking the weather, make sure that you're, looking at wind direction and things like that, so you're not blowing smoke across a road or into your neighbor's house. You want to be a good, polite neighbor and kind of be aware of that. So you keep friendly neighbors that way. So this is a large debris pile that started this summer on accident. It came from some hot ashes that they put on the edge of the pile. And within half an hour, this pile that you see became fully engulfed. So fire moves quickly. It moves sometimes without warning. And so just want to reiterate that you got to be careful once you light that match and start that pile. Now that pile is your responsibility for whatever happens. And so, like I said, a major cause of wildland fires are from debris piles. And if we have to respond, or the fire department has to respond, and we find you liable, you will get billed for your time. So just, winter is a good time to burn. There's usually, as long as there's 3 inches of snow on the ground, you don't need to get a permit. The chances of that fire spread is very minimal. And so now is a good time to burn, to kind of keep things, in check and where you want them to be. Just make sure that you're getting out after that's kind of settled down and cooled down, and things that are unburned, you want to roll them over, put snow on them, scrape them out, make sure that they're good and cold so they don't reignite come spring. So kind of what we're looking for into the future is we're going to continue with the public service announcements, continue talking to public television, get out there, let people know when it's a good time to burn, when it's not. We're going to be a little bit more proactive with our restrictions this spring, so there'll probably be less time for regular burning permits. So if you do have a pile, try to get that done as soon as possible. And so it has plenty of winter left to help you put that fire out. We're gonna have a more robust fire response, so we're gonna try and get to those fires quicker, send more resources, so we kind of keep them small. And then we're gonna work with our homeowners and landowners. So we're gonna work with Firewise, talk about some defensible spaces. That's clearing out 30 feet around buildings and structures, making sure that your driveways are cleared out 12 to 15 feet wide and 12 to 15 feet tall. So if we do have to go down there, or the fire department has to go down there, that we can get down there safely and get out if we need to. And if you want more information about Firewise, you can go to the Minnesota DNR website, search Firewise, and they've got pamphlets and ideas for you to kind of help make your house defensible, if a wildfire were to happen in and around your neighborhood. And that was,
I was going to say, do you want to talk about the burning permit webpage? If you want, I can bring that up.
Yeah, if you want to talk about that. So right now there's 3 inches of snow on the ground, so you are not required to get a burning permit. Once that snow starts to melt, you will have to get a permit to burn your pile. And so if a pile is smaller than 20 by 20, you can get a regular permit. There's a couple different ways to do that. Do you want me to stop sharing?
Sure. And I'll share the burning page. You should see it about now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect. Good.
So there's three main ways to get a burning permit, a regular burning permit. So there's two different styles of burning permits. The most common one is the regular burning permit. That's for, areas less than 1 acre or piles smaller than 20 by 20. Those you can get at a township fire warden. We have them scattered throughout the countryside. You can come to a DNR office and get one, or you can go online and purchase one for $5, and then that permit is good for $5 for the whole calendar year. And so, kind of pushing people that direction. If you do go to a township fire warden or a DNR office, they are only a 3-day permit. And so if you run out of time or run into some bad weather, or we need to shut burning permits down due to weather or air quality, and you'd have to come back in. So it probably helps in the long run just to go online, buy that $5 permit, and then you can have it for the rest of the year. The other option is a variance permit, and that is for very large piles, larger than 20 by 20. They're technically for an economic reason, or an agricultural reason. So if you're clearing land to build a garage or a house, or if you're clearing a 40 for converted into pasture, you can, or if you have CRP ground and you need to burn that CRP ground, you can get a variance permit, and that one is good for up to 2 weeks. You do have to go to a DNR office to get a variance permit. We're going to ask you some simple questions. Typically you don't want to burn that pile by yourself. So do you have people to help? Do you have equipment there? How are you going to suppress that fire if it does get away, and kind of keep it in check? Because once you light that larger pile, it's going to go, and there's not much other than a fire department that's going to put that out, or a dozer. So those are the two different styles of permits that we have. Typically in the spring, we'll put on our spring restrictions, and so we will restrict regular permits until things green up. That's usually the end of May, the first part of June. We will allow variance permits on a case-by-case basis, and we'll have some good questions for you. Periodically throughout the spring, due to air quality or fire critical or red flag warnings, we will shut down burning permits altogether.
Okay. Thanks there, Ben. Yeah, all of our panels, except I don't know about Nathan, but have firefighting experience, so feel free to ask any questions. Anything else, Ben, before you move into the general Q&A, or just?
No, I think that's about all I got.
Very good. Thank you both very much. And with that, for all the attendees here, there's an option to just ask or raise your hand and I'll unmute you. Or if you want to type it into the Q&A, we can answer questions that way. So feel free to raise your hand or type in some questions.
Brian, do you mind if I address just a couple in the chat right away?
Yeah, go ahead, Nathan.
So a couple of the questions were asked, do we have to wait until after February 2nd to start? That answer isn't necessarily as clear as a yes or no. We did receive a waiver to allow some things prior to the start date. So if you have removed hazardous trees, down trees, it may not preclude you from our emergency forest restoration program. This is going to be a little bit of a case-by-case determination. So I'd like to say it's a hard, fast yes or no, but it's a little bit more muddy than that. So I guess my suggestion to landowners is, even if you've started, you may want to inquire. The worst that we can say is you've done too much and we're not able to help you. If all you've done is remove those hazardous trees, we may still be able to provide assistance under our emergency forest restoration program. So I saw a couple of those in, and again, that was a national office waiver that we secured for this Bemidji Blowdown event. So,
Thanks, Nathan.
and the other one was funds. We hope that we have secured enough funds for this program to last the life of the sign up. If we haven't, we will try to go to national office to request more. We don't know if we'd be successful in that, but we are hopeful that we'll have plenty of funds to fulfill any interest there is in the emergency forest restoration program. So,
very good. Okay, I threw up just on the screen the DNR Bemidji Blowdown Assistance website in case you want to do a screenshot of that and save it for later. And I will switch over to another tab. That's the minnesotaforestry.org/blowdown. Again, there's pointers here when we'll add on the February webinar next to the list. The FSA stuff we'll add in here. And it looks like, yeah, we do have the dates updated on the website already. We have a very good webmaster. She does a great job, and there's lots of resource contacts and resources, hyperlinks, et cetera, et cetera. Any questions that anybody wants to ask? I'm not seeing any hands raised, so maybe it's the Monday blahs that's going on, or people just bashful. And keep in mind that this is being recorded for posterity's sake. So, okay, here we have one. Dave, why don't you go ahead and ask your question? Dave Close. There you go.
I don't know if my audio is on or not.
Yep, you're good.
I missed the first 18 minutes, but is there a size limit on the lots that are eligible for this?
That's where our emergency forest restoration program, it's not really designed for lots per se, and that's where we're really going to have to tease apart the eligibility as far as, do you meet the rural and nature and private forest lands. So no, there is no set criteria as far as it does have to be over an acre. There is no maximum amount of acres under the emergency forest restoration program, but it's also not intended to be urban in nature and maybe cover the lots either. So
sure. I'm thinking more like 10 acres size.
Sure.
That's still quite a mess back in there that we can't even get into.
Yep.
Where to begin with that?
Yep. And that's all stuff that, again, as long as it's rural in nature and considered private forest land, would absolutely be eligible. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? And thank you, Nathan and Lori, for answering those questions online. Everybody's bashful today.
We do have a Zoom user that I'm not quite sure. I think I know what they're talking to. So they said, so having already burned some smaller slash piles shouldn't disqualify you. I would think no. If the work still needs to be done, then you could qualify for the various funding types that are out there.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Lori.
And I do kind of just want to put a little caveat. So I run our state cost share funds, and we were awarded some funding through there. And one of the difficulties that I just wanted to provide some context to is just because you qualify for funding, and let's say I'm the one out there working with you to develop a project plan, I will do everything in my power to hook you up with somebody who can do the work, but we can't necessarily guarantee that we're going to find a logger or a contractor to actually complete the work. So we've been very successful, but I just wanted to throw that out there because there's a couple folks that I've been working with that it's been pretty rough. We have our fingers crossed that we're going to get the work done eventually, but sometimes it's a waiting game.
Thanks, Lori. Other questions from anyone? Otherwise, I'm going to force everybody to sing happy birthday to the Minnesota Forestry Association. This month, we turn 150 years old. So with that, Chris wants to ask a question. So Chris, I think that's Cotter. Go ahead. You should be allowed to talk. So go ahead and unmute yourself there, Chris.
Okay, you talked about there's a federal office in Bemidji. Is that what I understood? Across from Bob Louth Ford?
Yep.
Yes, correct. That's U.S. Department of Agriculture.
U.S. Department of Agriculture. Okay. And then what are the days and hours of that? Because the Bagley one was just a couple days a week.
Yep. So Bemidji is open 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. So obviously holidays were closed. We have Martin Luther King Jr. birthday coming up, and then during the sign up, I guess President's Day. But other than that, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30.
Monday through Friday. That's all I needed to know. Thank you.
You bet.
Thanks, Chris. Other questions? Okay, we're going to have to start singing here. Dave, no, we don't have to fill the hour out. We knew this was going to be a little bit light, but I have a feeling, Nathan, you're going to have a lot of questions in a month because of the process. And thankfully the program exists. It's one of the few forestry programs that USDA administers, thankfully. Yeah.
Yep.
And by the way, I was going to mention this is the same program that the folks in the fire area in St. Louis County were able to get assistance with. And there were a few people that signed up over there that got burned out. I think that one is closed by now, but it was open this late summer. Well, it might still be open. I'm not positive on that one. Chris, do you have another question?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I'm wondering how much money was allocated to this blowdown event from the federal side.
I don't have that number handy. I know it was a good amount. Like I said, I think we'll be able to spread assistance a long ways with what we were able to secure. So.
Oh, good. Yeah, so it'll cover quite a few acres then.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
Excellent.
Thanks, Chris. Other questions? Even our other panelists. Normally, Dave has a few questions that pop up, and he did have one earlier. Dave Rourke.
Yeah, I think, as we develop here, Brian, there's going to be more questions, I think, on both the EFRP and the Firewise. A couple of questions I was thinking about, running fires and whatnot, but it's probably, a bit premature to get into that, broadcast burning, any of those kinds of things. It gets pretty tricky and a lot more intense and whatnot. And I don't know that we need to have these discussions. I think when the time comes, when we get closer to that, if there's questions about that, if it's a genuine opportunity to maybe have those discussions at that time. So I really appreciate the opportunity to have these discussions with these two presenters, because it really helps put things in perspective, and it allows private landowners to get up and ready and, kind of get set and prepared to start the process. So thanks for showing up.
Yeah, and I was looking forward here on the website that I'm scrolling through. I think it's here on the bottom somewhere. You can it's at the top. Contact us at MFA, and we have just both a phone number. That's Dave Rourke, who's actually answers this phone number over here, and you can also email info@minnesotaforestry.org for general inquiries, and we'll answer that. We have a question from Chuck Jensen. So Chuck, you should be allowed to talk, and you'll have to unmute yourself. There you go.
Yeah, thanks. I was just wondering with the thought of a fire risk. We're on 40 acres here. About 30 of it was actually wooded. We lost a lot of old growth Norway and white pine for the most part. We've got a lot of birch and popple, et cetera, left on the land. we were fortunate to get a logger to come in and salvage, what they thought they could get something for. My question really is, with the thought of fire, are we better off to leave the slash lay and let it naturally decompose, or should we be trying to gather that up and be able to burn it in piles, for the safety in the long run?
Yeah, Chuck, I guess it kind of comes down to what your long-term goals on that. I would say if a wildfire were to start in slash, it wouldn't be a fast-moving fire, but it would be a very hot, intense, stubborn fire to put out. And so, it's perfectly okay to lop and scatter and leave that on the site. That's something that we do, in forestry. But I guess if the long-term goal is to reforest that again with pine and needing to plant, then probably the better thing to do would be to scrape those up and trying to keep the dirt out of it, but putting them into piles and slowly burning them over the winter months.
Well, I think our long range would be to let nature do its thing. I mean, we see a lot. We lost so many trees back in 2012, and then this last storm in June here just kind of finished the process. But we saw so much natural regrowth already, in that 13 years. We really don't have any plan to go out and plant. I guess maybe then to add to that question, if I may, is just to leave it lay. Is there any benefit to, say a skid steer with a brush hog on the front and really chopping it down, or is it equally effective to just let it naturally rot?
So Chuck, I think under the circumstances, there's some complexity that's pretty hard to discuss without having it looked at. So
Sure.
It might be a good idea for you to be able to make a contact. Maybe Lori can help set something up or do a visit. I'm not sure just exactly where you're at, but it's really best to have somebody with a skill set to understand your different circumstances there. And kind of put it all together and can give you some advice about what would be the best approach. And I would recommend doing that sooner as opposed to later.
Yeah, I'd be open to that very much. We're just southeast of Bemidji, so I mean, really close to town.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, how would I make that happen?
So if Lori's in a position to either recommend somebody or take a look, and if not, call the MFA number, and maybe I can set something up to look at that big picture. We can have that discussion on the phone on the side.
Sounds good.
Yeah, Chuck, just to reiterate, that's what I'm here for. I've been helping out folks left and right and everywhere. So you can get a hold of me. I can maybe type in the chat my phone number as well as email address.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lori.
Brian, I might actually not be smart enough to know how to do this.
Brian, I think you're muted.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking because I was looking out my window here and I had to mute because a couple dogs went running by, and I have a German Shepherd who likes to bark at other dogs in our front yard, and I wanted to avoid the chaos. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Totally
Sorry.
understandable.
Yeah, AI hasn't figured out how to unmute herself automatically yet. All right. Any other last questions from anybody? Otherwise, if you got questions, just think about them and either email us or call us or bring them to the conference or the webinar a month from now, and we'll try and answer those as best we can. All right.
Sounds good. Thanks, Brian.
Have a good week and stay out of trouble and enjoy the mild weather today. It was tough coming back into the house this afternoon.
For sure.
All right.
So
Take care, everybody. Be safe. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.